Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar session, Analyze and Enhance Your Summer Reading Lists. And this is the second in our series of thematic workshops for the Missouri and Ohio Collection Analysis Initiatives. So we're really happy that you're here with us today. I'll introduce my co-hosts and colleagues, starting with Erin and then Leisha from the State Libraries.
Hi, my name is Erin Kelsey, and I'm a library consultant at the State Library. Excited to be here and always love working with our friends at Teaching Books.
Hi, I'm Leisha Thompson. I'm the Youth Services Consultant for the Missouri State Library. And I agree with Erin. It's always a great day when we get to work with our friends at Teaching Books.
Thanks, guys. I'll pass the baton now over to my colleague, Susanna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Susanna Gilbert. I'm an implementation and training specialist with Teaching Books, which means I get to share things about the site with librarians and teachers all over the country.
Thanks, Susanna. So you're here today either in the live session or watching the recording after the fact to learn how these tools that are available to you for free through the state libraries of Missouri and Ohio, how these tools can support you as you're building your reading lists for summer reading, or even if they're already built, having a chance to reflect and refresh them if needed. Just knowing that this is one more tool that you have in your back pocket to make sure that you're giving your readers and your patrons everything that they need to have a really fun, engaging summer full of books. So we'll get right into that. But first, we want to just share what these initiatives are really about. And at their core, these initiatives from Missouri and Ohio are all about giving you ongoing professional development so that you can provide tools, so that you can have tools that affirm that the children's books in your communities are meeting the needs of those communities. So you constantly have the ability on an ongoing basis, whether it's through accessing the site or coming to our office hours or coming to these webinar sessions, you have ongoing entry points to pause and reflect. And we really want to make sure that you know that these tools and resources are available to you indefinitely. There's no pressure to get started right now. Even if this is the 5th webinar that you've watched or the very first one, if this is your intro to our program, you can know that these tools will be available to you whenever you're ready for them. So we're here to help you. And I'll pass it over to both Leisha and Erin to say a little bit about our respective initiatives if they would like. Here is mine and Leisha's contact info for anyone joining us from Missouri.
So this is our first year with the Collection Analysis Initiative, but actually we've had a contract statewide with Teaching Books for 3. Teaching Books has been a fabulous tool added to all of our resources here in the state, and the Collection Analysis Initiative was just the next step, and that made sense. And I very much appreciate Erin's input and guidance as with the experiences in Ohio.
Thanks, Leisha. And then here is mine and Erin's info. And Erin, if there's anything you want to say about the Ohio program.
Sure. We have been working with Teaching Books for 3 years now, and we launched the initiative in the spring of 2022. So we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary, and we have spent the last 2 years just trying to get the word out and do informational and educational workshops like this. And it's just been really exciting to talk about this initiative and what it can do to enhance collections. And it's just such a powerful tool. We have just about 800 users, and in all 88 counties of Ohio, which we're just really proud of. That can be really hard to do, to reach everybody, library staff in all of our counties. So that was a goal of ours, and we were able to meet that. And we're just excited to continue to spread the word and build on everybody's knowledge and excitement about the initiative.
And we're trying to keep it going in both Ohio and Missouri. So make sure you tell your colleagues working in any schools or libraries, anybody who is working with children's and young adult books can access these tools for free through the Missouri or Ohio projects. So you can share with anyone in your life who's working in a school or a library and might want to get to know what this program is about. It's completely non-committal. Just because you register doesn't mean you have to do any of this. But we're all here to support you and to make sure that you have access to these really powerful tools. And speaking of these tools, here are some quick reasons why you might want to incorporate these in your library or your school. We're giving you the chance again to affirm that the titles that you're using and making visible for your communities meet the needs of those young readers. And we're giving you simple and effective ways to map out collections and analyze them, along with personalized plans. One real core pillar of this initiative is that you are supported on a one-on-one level, whether it's talking to me or Susanna or to Leisha or Aaron. You're going to have someone walking you through answering any questions that you might have. And if you're talking to me or if you're working with spreadsheets or any of that technical stuff, you can come to me and we'll make it easy and seamless. So everything is one-on-one. You have this individualized support, and you'll be joining a multi-state community of colleagues in Ohio and Missouri who are working on this all together and taking time to pause and reflect. So in a minute, we're going to get into today's session, which again focuses on summer reading lists. So we're going to take a bird's eye view right now and just look at what this process really looks like. Then we'll talk about the impact of refreshing summer reading lists and how one outdated list can look very different from a more recent list that we'll come up with together. And then we'll show you exactly how that process plays out. And Susanna, Leisha, and Aaron and I will demo the building of one list and adding in titles and analyzing it and studying the change. We'll end with a quick how-to on sharing resources in your community with students and patrons and young readers. And then we'll give you a chance for Q&A for those who are here in the session today. We'll stop the recording and answer any questions that you might have. And again, the end goal here is that you feel even 1% more equipped to go back to your library with these tools and know how to use them to make a difference. You are not expected to become a whiz or a guru of collection analysis tools here after one webinar or even after 5. But we just want to make sure that you know that you have access to easily accessible and friendly materials that will make you feel just a little bit more prepared to go and do this work. So here's our bird's eye view. The very first step is to start by picking a small set of titles. And this can be new releases or staff picks. It can be about an event. It could be Women's History Month. It could have been Black History Month. Any reason why you might display a set of titles. And it can even be a larger set of titles, like your entire picture books collection or graphic novels A through M. There are no limits to what you can analyze here and the scope that you can, of the analysis that you can do. But if you're just starting out, we found that it's a little bit easier to grasp the process if you are starting with a small set of titles. Once you do that, you're going to import them into teaching books by scanning them or copy and pasting the information. And we'll show you how all of this is done. You can quick add books by typing in just a title or author name. You can paste in a larger list of titles, authors, or ISBNs, and you can even upload a CSV file. And as our colleague Deb here is demonstrating right at the Westerville Public Library in Ohio, you can scan them in with a book scanner or your phone camera. And then immediately you're going to get a report like this that tells you about the balance of fiction and nonfiction, the balance of cultural experience areas, when books were released, when they were published, how many award winners you had. And for the very nerdiest among us, you can see the word count average and the page count average. If you were building a collection of all books that had exactly 14,709 words, then you could ensure that that need was being met with this tool. So that's our quick bird's eye view. In a minute, in a matter of seconds, we're going to go over to the live site and show you how this all works. If you are coming in through Missouri, from a Missouri Public Library, you should see this page. This is the library side of the Missouri homepage. And there is an Ohio side for this for public libraries, and there's school sides for both as well. That's part of us really attempting to give you curated and tailored materials that are specific to your needs. But this page is your one-stop shop for all the kinds of different collection analysis materials you might need. Okay, so deep breath, that's where all this lives. That's our whole collection analysis spiel. And now we can get in a little bit to why this work is so important and how you do it. So I'm going to go over to our live site right here and show you a sample reading list that we made. And this list is intentionally a little bit outdated. We've got some older titles on it. If I scroll down, we've got Harry Potter's. We've got some great books here. Like Everyone Loves Baby Mouse. There's nothing wrong with these titles at all. But they are a little bit older. And it's a case of why it might be good to take a minute and refresh some of your summer reading lists. So I've built this list. And again, later on, we'll show you how to build the list. But if you click this button right at the top, List Analysis Report, I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger. List Analysis Report, I can see the insights that are hidden within this list of 32 titles. So we can see that we have only 16% of these books are diverse, meaning they have a collection, a cultural experience area specific to them. We're catching 14 genres, but only 3 different cultural experience areas. We're very heavily leaning towards fiction, which maybe for summer reading is not a bad thing, but it's worth noting. Only 41% of these books have won awards, and the publication year median is 2005, which was, sorry for those among us, a long time ago. Everyone among us. That's not comfortable to know that 2005 was 20 years ago, but it is the truth. And if you scroll down here, you can find interactive charts that mirror all of those kinds of insights, and you can click on them to see, well, what are these 4 nonfiction books? It'll open up in a new window, and you can see what they are. From The Belly Button of the Moon, Toasting Marshmallows, Mud City, and Go Wild in New York City. And the same is true for recency. Like, this is a great tool if you want to say, what is on this list that I've included in my high engaging summer reading list? What came out in 1913? The Complete Poems of Paul Laurence Dunbar. Your favorite beach read? Maybe. But yes, Susanna's saying yes. Something, you could be aware of. If this is a book that you do want on your summer reading list, then power to you. But make sure you know, and you can see there that it came out in 1913. So we'll get into this more later, and we'll show you a bunch of lists, but this is the very first thing that we wanted to show you that's here. Now, contrast that with this other list that we've built. And this was the end result of last year's webinar on summer reading, where we ended up with 107 books that we deemed to be recent and inclusive titles. And if we open up this list analysis report, you can see some pretty different numbers. We still have a high fiction count, which is totally cool, but we've gone from 3 cultural experiences represented to 18, and from 16% books being diverse to now 88, 41% award winners, now it's 94. And yes, we have moved 15 years into the future with our publication year median up to 2020. So that's a lot of numbers. And a lot of this program is about giving you numbers that can help inform and prompt reflection about your books. But it's not just about the numbers. There's also reasons why we do this work. So I'll pass it over to Susanna, who has some nice insight about summer reading and the purpose of refreshing.
Yeah, so I was thinking a little bit when we were preparing for this webinar about summer reading and why we're focusing on summer reading this month for this particular webinar. when I was a public librarian in youth services prior to working for Teaching Books, and summer in the library where I was working was always a time when we got the chance to share books and share library resources with patrons who maybe didn't come in as much in other times of year. We got a lot more kids in the door in the summer, and often those were families who we didn't see as much the rest of the year. So we always try to look at it as a chance to really showcase like our best possible resources, including books. And I think really getting that chance to take a look and make sure that the lists that you're sharing out in the summer are really reflective of the community that you're working in, and that everybody who walks in the door is going to see themselves reflected in your lists and in the books on the shelves. So excited to work on getting some great lists built today.
Yeah. Thanks, Susanna. That's great. And I love, I think it's really important to highlight that kind of point, because this is an analysis initiative. It is all where you're seeing all these numbers, but at the end of the day, all these numbers are telling you is that you're reaching kids, and you're giving them books that are going to make them happy and fill their summer months with joy and light, which is why we're all here anyway. So it's a good reminder at the top of this session today. We are going to get into how to build these lists and how to search for titles and everything, but we also wanted to jump back to this list and show you another thing quickly that Teaching Books can give you, and that is resources. A couple weeks ago, we did our first thematic workshop here, and we had a resource. We were focusing on the Teaching Books resources, and they are lovely and can be another pillar of your summer reading work, ways that you can get kids excited about books. So we'll jump just very briefly into Dragon Hoops, and I'll give you a great example of one of these resources, which is a name pronunciation guide with Jean Yang. We'll play this, and I think this is just a really good example of how Teaching Books brings books to life for all readers, whether they're reluctant or very excited. So here we go.
Hello, my name is Jean Lin Yang. Jean Lin Yang is actually a transliteration of my Chinese name, which is Yang Jing Lin. That middle character Jing was eventually made into my English first name. When I was born, my parents named me Jing, which means splendid. But my mom tells me that by the time I was 2, she noticed that I had a really terrible habit of hitting my head on the furniture. So she actually ended up changing my middle character in my Chinese name to Jing, which is the homonym of my original middle character. But instead of meaning splendid, it meant careful. So now my name has gone from splendid to careful, but it all transliterates the same in English. It's all Jean. Hello.
Oops. I love that. Susanna and I found this when we were preparing for this webinar, and I just think, you could read a million of Jean Yang's books and never know that story.
I could see this getting kids excited in a summer reading visit to a classroom, or giggling about, because that's a really cute story. But using these resources to really enhance programming, or I know in my work as a children's librarian prior to this, we would visit all the schools, as many as we could, as many teachers who would have them in our class, have us in their classrooms or in their auditoriums, and you didn't have a lot of time and you had to make things stick. And these lists or these resources could really make some of these books come alive. Or leaving a QR code with some of this cool stuff with the teacher or on a table, so they could come back to it.
And we do have QR codes, and we will get into that.
Yes,
This arrow comes into play in a big way, and Erin is forecasting that for us beautifully, foreshadowing for us beautifully. Yes. Okay. There's the why, and the what of the resources and the titles. But let's go back to these two analysis reports. Here's our 32 title one. Here's our 107 title one. And we want to find out how to make this kind of a change in the kind of list that we build and analyze for summer reading. How do we get from here to here? and find ways that we can turn this good list into a really, truly fantastic list. So I'm going to turn to my friends, starting with Susanna, to help direct me on how I can find new titles that fill in gaps and can bring this list to life in a new way.
All right. So we have a variety of different tools that you can use to find new titles on the site or find more information about titles you already know and love. And one of those actually lives within the list analysis report. So we can start on our list analysis report here, and under summaries there, you're going to see there's an option for adding and weeding titles. If we click on that, it's going to take us down to this little search tool. And we're not really going to get into weeding titles today, but just on how you can identify books through this tool. So we could select something here. We could pick a genre. Maybe we want adventure books, something fun for summer. We can select some grade levels. Maybe we're focusing on our younger grades here and we want to do just up through 8th grade. So let's do pre-K through 8 there. You can always select more than one, which is a tool that I love.
And this lives right beneath on the report, the list of things that aren't included. So if you're
There we
looking
go.
for inspiration, you can go right to one of these areas, or you can just leave it open and start discovering for yourself.
Absolutely, thank you. So we can just hit search here, and this is gonna take us directly to a new search. So we can see we've got 8,000 and some titles that fit those criteria. So there's those grades levels we just picked, they're the adventure genre, and they're also not already included in that list that we're working from. So that's one of my favorite things about using this tool in particular, is if you have a base list that you're starting from, you want to make sure that you're not accidentally looking at books you don't need to be looking at because they're already in the list that you started with. But 8,000 titles is way too many titles. So we're gonna play around with our filters on the left there. So you'll see we've got a whole lot of different options. We know that this list that we're starting with didn't have very many award winners. That was a pretty low number. So we could pick the awards and distinctions category of the filters, and we could say we want books that have won any award at all. We could pick a specific one, or we could just say we want award winners.
Okay,
And
so
that drops us down quite a lot there, more manageable number. But we also know that this is a list where we had a pretty old median publication year. So maybe we want to take a look at year published and say we're looking for books just from the past 3 years.
Okay, 250.
Much better. We're getting but our focus today here really is about finding diverse books, right? We're wanting to make more inclusive lists. So we can also go into our cultural experience categories in the filters there. And we can explore. Maybe we are looking for something in particular that we have reflected in our community. Maybe we want some Latinx global there and see what we get.
Okay, so now we've got 11.
There we go. I haven't heard of a couple of these, but I know a couple of them. You know, we've got some exciting ones, relatively new books that we can explore, learn more about, or we can just add them to a list so we can keep them for later and keep searching.
And you can even sort these. You can sort them at any time. So whether you have 8,000 results or 11, you can say, I'd like to see, the books that have won the most awards first, or the books that have the most resources here so that I can share them with readers, or what came out most recently. So there are a lot of ways that you can do that. And so let's say we just want to take, oh, sorry, I skipped a very important step. And Susanna laid a beautiful segue, and then I just blew right past it and went back to sorting. Susanna talked about this add multiple titles to reading lists button, which is on the top right of all search results. And it's got this little plus sign here. You can also find the plus sign below each book if you want to add each book one by one or individually. But here you can grab a bunch at a time. So I can click this, and here's my list, and I could select them all and then unselect a couple if I didn't want a couple for any reason, or I could just keep them all in. And then you can add them to a list. So if I click this button, it's going to ask me if I want to create a new list or add them into a previous one. Like I could put them in our webinar from a couple weeks ago, which I won't do because I shared this list out with people and I don't want to add random books to it that they aren't expecting. So I'm going to make a new list and call this Engaging Summer Reading Titles, March 2024. Add them in, and there we go. We've saved these 7 titles to a brand new list. And we could keep running searches and keep adding titles to that list. Should we, Susanna, Alicia, Aaron?
We can. We could remove that cultural experience filter and try a different one. We could take that off and see what we get here if we instead go into cultural experience and search by, maybe we want some disability titles. We can see if we have some great adventures with that representation in them. Here we've got some Stunt Boy, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And a few other things here. So again, we could add, oh, Is It at the End of the World has been on my TBR for an embarrassingly long time. But we could add a couple of these, or we could add all of them. Again, we've got that option.
So let's do it.
Yeah, let's get a couple of these in here.
So I picked my books, and I'm doing this arbitrarily. But you could, when you click into any of these books, if you want to learn about Blackbird Blue Road, just open that up and take a little walk down the road of this book and find out what it's about. Take a peek at the resources. Look at a author interview or a book reading or a book guide. You can really dive into the books before you decide that you want to add them to your little shopping list here.
Yeah.
So we'll grab these and we're going to add them in this Engaging Summer Reading Titles list that we just built. So boom, those 6 books are now on there.
There we go.
Do we want to do one more maybe just to show filtering again?
Let's actually jump back to the list analysis, the tool in the list analysis report, because I want to walk through this whole process one more time just so we can be sure we all know what that looks like.
So I'm going to close this tab, but I didn't lose my work, and we'll show you why.
Opening things in new tabs. Wonderful thing. All right, so let's switch our genre here. Let's take a look at some humor titles. Need some funny books for summer this year.
Humor.
Awesome. And we can keep that K to 8. That's the age group that we're just focusing on here, and then search again. And again, that'll open in a new tab. And there we even more books.
You thought adventure was big. Wait till you start making jokes.
Yeah. All right, so we can once again work with those filters. So maybe we still are focusing on award winners from the past 3 years. So we can get those filters going again. There's any award, and we've got past 3 years. Oh, 248. Wow. We got down to about 250 with that last time.
Yeah, we hit 249.
There we go. So again, we can dive into our cultural experiences here and see which holes are we looking to fill. Maybe we want Asian global this time, or Asian American.
Yeah, let's go back to our report and see.
What do we have? Oh yeah, we definitely need all of those.
We definitely need. Yeah, we do. We need all of those.
Wonderful.
So Asian global, Asian American. Where should we go?
Let's do Asian American and see what we got.
7. And by the way, these little parentheticals that you see next to these areas are about the original search. So of the 10,000 books that we first pulled up that were humor K through 8, 57 of them were Asian American. So if you're wondering why we clicked this and it says 57 here, but only 7 up here, that's because it's now stacking these filters, but it doesn't change the text over here. Just a little thing to know. So 7 titles.
There we go. How to Win a Slime War. Great one to put on a summer reading list. Somebody's going to want that. What else do we have? Marisol Rainey, wonderful. Whole lot of Ben Yokoyama.
A whole lot of Ben Yokoyama.
But we've got two different series here where we've got 3 books. But what better time to introduce a young reader to a new series than summer, where they're going to want to then read absolutely all of them, right?
Right. So let's say we wanted to add these 4. And we can. Voila. And now we're just adding more and more titles. So little crash course on adding titles through this built-in tool that again is right in your list analysis report. And you can scroll down to it, but I don't want to make you sick by scrolling so fast. So I'm just going to click on the anchor link here in the summary. And your list is saved to your profile. So you've all made accounts either by registering for this initiative or by having an account originally through your district or your public library. And under your name here in the top left is where your reading lists and your collection analysis reports are saved. So all the time as we're exploring titles, I'm saving these to my reading lists in our engaging summer reading titles list. So I'm safe to close this report if I want to, or close any tabs and come back to teaching books, and I can just keep searching and finding books. So I'm going to close this tab. And now that I've done that, I'm just going to totally reset us. Here we are at the homepage. What if I want to find titles now? How do I do it?
One of the ways that you can do that from here is just by searching. We have a really great search tool. If you're ever looking for anything on the site, you don't remember how you got to it before, I always recommend starting by just searching for it. You'll click on that little magnifying glass. This is going to pop out. And you can do a lot of really great keyword searching. So what's another kind of book that we might really want to highlight in the summer? Got some reluctant readers, maybe they're looking for fun things to read this summer. What else might we want to look for? Open to suggestions.
How about STEAM?
Ooh, wonderful.
STEAM,
So we can just
okay.
search. We can search for that.
STEAM, and there's a whole lot of results when you type in STEAM.
Yes, always. So we've got lists, we have books with STEAM in the title, but we also have featured collections there. So we can go into our whole STEAM collection. We know that this was a list where we didn't have a ton of nonfiction when we looked at it the first time. So, we know we've got readers for whom, especially science or, fact-based nonfiction is always a great entry point. And so we could filter here under our genre filter by nonfiction instead. Take a look at what we get. We can go back to grade level. So we can pick a grade level here. We can look at 1 to 5, maybe, see what we get.
Okay, we're getting there.
All right. And once again, we can take a look at award winners or more recent titles.
We'll do. Are there any particular awards we might want to look at here? There's a Best STEM Books Award.
Let's see if any of these pop up there.
Down to 51 now.
Nice.
And then here's another really cool tool that was just added. If you click into cultural experiences, you can now find any cultural experience. So any book that is diverse in any way will now show up if you click that. So now we're at 24.
Awesome. So we could also sort again here. We could pick the sort by, and maybe we want to do by year published here. So we're just filtering those more recent books up to the top.
Yeah.
And then we've got some cool picture book biographies, it looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the dishwashing machine. All right.
I don't.
What is Nintendo?
Oh, what is Nintendo?
What
I
is
gotta put that on your summer reading list.
Done. Done, and buy 10 extra copies.
They're
Yeah.
gonna fall apart.
So let's grab them. We've got our handy button, and these are now sorted again in the way that we chose to sort them. So these are our most recent first. So we grab these ones. We can learn all about dishwashers and the Nintendo Switch. and grab Classified, which is a book that always seems to come up because it meets so many different areas. So we love to highlight that book. And again, I can put these into any list. I've been putting them into our March 2024 engaging summer reading titles list, but I could make a brand new one. I can do whatever I want because teaching books is a sandbox of book fun. And you can put that on my headstone.
Talking the other day about how I describe what I do here, and maybe it's going to be that from now on.
You're just playing a sandbox all day.
Just in the sandbox. All right, so that's our Steam.
right.
Any other specific categories or collections you want to search for?
Let's search for graphic novels. So that's always a big hit in the summer.
Someone had to say it.
Gotta get some good ones in there. So again, you'll see here we're getting some lists, some series, graphic novel as a subject, but we'll also get that graphic novel graphic format collection under featured there. You can see we've got about 4,500 books there. Some great ones up top already. But we can just continue to filter down. So we can pick a grade level. Maybe we're looking for some in that 4 to 8 category. Still going to get those ones up at the top. But we can go through and do past 3 years again, maybe.
Okay, that one took us down to
There we go.
digits. That's good.
So we can continue exploring. We can take a look at a cultural experience here. So maybe let's look at immigrant and refugee.
Cool.
I don't think we've added anything, and I think that was on our list.
Yeah, so we've got 5 of those. So you can
There we
really
go.
dig into these.
And some great ones.
Uh-huh.
Islands, borders, good stuff.
So let's bring them all in. Add them to the list. Boom, boom, boom. Once you get the hang of this, I promise it's very fun and very fast. It's like you're shopping, but you're not spending any money and you're just learning. Isn't
right,
that a best way to shop?
Let's take our immigrant and refugee off there. And I want to show one other thing, which is let's switch to that any cultural experience filter here.
Okay.
And then scroll down on the filters for me, if you would, Jake. So I want to share, you can also filter, if we keep going, by resource type. So we highlighted that audio name pronunciation, but maybe you're wanting to add some titles surrounding a particular type of resource. We've got those audio name pronunciations, we have author interviews, we also have book trailers. So maybe that's something that we want to filter by here to be able to give that little fun, engaging preview for some of these titles.
Nice, that's a great shout.
There we go. We're down to 62. We could continue filtering. We can sort these, or we can just pick a few to add to our list from here.
Yeah, let's sort these by the number of resources because we're looking for, maybe we'll get a couple that have more than one book trailer this way.
Yeah, often happens.
So I'll add these. We'll just take a couple of them. You'll notice we're grabbing borders and islet to island again. Let's see what happens when we do that, since we know these are already in our list. And it tells us that both of these titles are already on our list. So we haven't duplicated them, which is a really, really cool feature. It's another factor in why you can just explore limitlessly, because even if you add, if you add every book that shows up on a search results page and you do that 500 times, you are not going to end up with the same book twice.
Also really great if you're coming back to a list and you just do not remember what's on it.
Yeah.
Because that often happens to me.
Okay, so we've touched on searching for things directly through the tool on the list analysis report. We've touched on searching for collections and featured collections directly through the search bar. What if we know of particular lists in the world that are good lists for people to look at if they're making a summer reading collection? What if we want to try to find those on teaching books?
Yeah, let's head back to our magnifying glass there. And we can just keyword search again. So let's take a look at quick picks for reluctant readers.
It's right
There we
there.
go. And we get all of the books that are on Teaching Books that have ever been on a Quick Picks for Reluctant Readers list. So going back to 1997, which is a lot of titles there. We've got
Yeah.
a whole wide range. So I don't think we want to add all 153 of these, but we could keep filtering down. We could do something that I really love with all of our award lists is that you can filter specifically by award year. So maybe we just want the ones that just were added to this list in 2024.
Yeah.
Great thing to highlight.
Here's those 10. And it tells you which ones were commended. It'll tell you if there were nominations on some lists where those are tracked, and it will also tell you which one won the award nominally. So there's a bunch of information here.
Or we could, maybe these aren't books that you have very easily accessible. 5 Survive still has 300 people on the hold list. So we could go back and do the 2023 award year and see what we have there.
Yeah.
I think this could be such a good reader's advisory tool for when the shelves are empty.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, wait, all of those popular books that are on the list that you just built, which is great because that means everybody was jazzed about it. But then now what? Because they want to bring something home today. So what is like the thing that was cool from a couple of years ago, or that could be a read alike?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a constant battle. What are things like this that are actually here? So yeah, let's take a look at 2023 instead there.
Cool.
And see what we got.
Here, 2023.
I don't remember what was on this list in 2023. Let's see. We could also filter their swim team again. Punching Bag, Rex Ogle, that's a great one. But again, you can narrow by grade level, you could narrow by cultural experience, or you can just add a couple of these titles straight off of this list.
Yeah, let's do it. And the thing that's so great about being able to find these particular lists is like, we know that you guys all know how to do your jobs. We know that you're aware of these lists, and you can find them here. So this is just a database and a catalog for you to have access to everything that you already have access to, things that you know about, things that you could discover. That's what's so great about Teaching Books, is you have open access to all of this stuff. So Quick Picks for Reluctant Young Adult Readers is a great one. You could also search for a famous list like We Are Kidlit. And there it is. So there's the 2023 summer reading list, and there's also this cumulative list. 2024 isn't out yet, but everything that has been on this list since 2015. So there's 456 books. Any in particular you guys want to grab, or filters we should apply? We could look for disability again, or
Last Stop. I don't have a particular category preference, but The Last Stop on Market Street is just one of my all-time favorite.
Sure.
So cute.
Let's make sure we add that one.
Sweet.
Then we can use this.
Got some great complete book readings for that one too. You can
I bet.
listen to Matt de la Pena read the whole thing himself.
Oh yeah. I think I've seen that before. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can also just have them show us the ones from 2020 onward or 2022 onward. So yeah, we'll grab a couple of these. Okay, so that is a lot of titles that we've looked at. We've shown you a lot of different ways that you can find titles. Now we'll show you what it means and how you can apply this process to seeing the real impact of the work. So if I view this list, it's going to take me to my custom reading list, just like the one that we made, that we showed you from earlier today. And this now has 44 books on it that we've decided to put on this list. And I have some options here. I could view an analysis report of just these 44 books with this button, or I could use this one on the sidebar to save this into a pre-existing list analysis report. So let's do both, just to show you how this works. First, I'm going to click List Analysis Report here. And this is going to open a temporary version of this report. Temporary meaning that it isn't saved to your profile on Teaching Books. And the reason that we do that is because you can look at a list analysis report for any list. You could look at the Coretta Scott King list. You could look at the Newberry, anything. And you might be curious to see the list analysis reports there, but maybe you don't want them added into your personal list of reports. So that's why this is temporary. And you can save it using that same button that we just talked about. So here's our report. This is, again, just for those 44 titles that we decided to look at. And we've got a pretty great range here. We've got 16 cultural experience represented. Our fiction nonfiction balance, because we were intentional about looking for nonfiction titles, is a little bit closer than it was in the other lists we've looked at. We know that most of these books are diverse. They're also mostly award winners. And hey, recency filters pay off because the publication year median is in 2021. And here's that graph. We only have one book. We only have 2 books from before 2021 in this whole list of 44. So if I wanted to save this to a new report that I can keep for myself or into our previous one, I click this Save List Analysis Report button. And it's going to ask me where I want to import it. So when I open this drop-down list, here are all the other lists that I've worked on. And I'm just going to create a brand new report so I can have this here with me. So here we go. We've got it. And now when we go back to our collection reports and we scroll down, we can see that this is saved to our profile. So we've got it. But one of the things we were really interested in seeing was how this would impact if it were added and combined with the sample list that we started with that was outdated. So I can go repeat this process and go back to my custom reading lists, find the one that we were looking at, which was, hold on. I can grab it. See, okay, I did close a tab that I shouldn't have closed. So you can never be too careful. Even when you feel really safe about closing tabs, sometimes you still shouldn't do it. So here we go. Here's our list, and I'm gonna put it into our search bar. I know you can't see this yet, but you're about to. Voila. Zoom magic. Okay, so here's our older list with 32 titles on it. And now we want to combine it with the list that we just, list analysis report that we just made with our brand new list. So if I click this Save List Analysis Report button, I can go and import it into our summer reading titles. And here's version 2. I did this kind of backwards because I flubbed it. Typically version 2 is the version where we've updated it. In this case, we've updated it in an outdated way. So it doesn't have the same mystique as showing you a version 2 that has gotten better with analysis, but we can at least show you the difference.
Version 2, we made it worse.
We made it worse. So here's version 1, where it was great and there was nothing wrong with it. And here's version 2 where we made it worse. So here's our at a glance info. Let's just pretend that these are backwards. So we started in a place where we had, oh, wait, this doesn't work at all. This doesn't work at all.
It's okay. We could have 3 different versions. We could have the one where we started that we looked at the very beginning that has just the older books. We could have all 3 of these. We've got the combined one. We can talk about what's in the combined.
Okay, all right. It only took me like 14 webinars to make a mistake where I really couldn't backpedal. Yeah, okay, that was just not the way to do this. So just goes to show you, no matter how much you've used these tools, it's still great to have entry points to learn more about how you can do things better, because we all make mistakes. Anyway,
You brought it home, Jake. You did it.
Yeah, we're here.
There you go.
So anyway, that fell a little bit flat, but imagine that you started out with a list of 30 titles that where the numbers weren't so great. We had 3 cultural experience areas. We had publication year of 2005, 14% diverse books, 40% award winners. Now we're here. Now we've added in 13 cultural experience areas and a ton more diverse books. And our reading list is in a much better place after like 15 to 18 minutes of searching through titles. And it doesn't even need to take that long. You don't have to do it as many times as we did. There's so much you can do, and there's so many titles to find. But once you get the hang of it again, it's pretty quick. So there we go. We did end up in the same place, regardless of my mistake. Any questions on reflecting on the changes to this list before, or anything y'all want to highlight before we head back to talking about sharing?
I think it's interesting to see that on this combined list, that publication year median is still 2021, even with the addition of that list where the median was 2005. So that new list that we created really dragged that up and kept it there, even when we mixed them together.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you can see there are 43 books published in the last 3 years and 33 and all the years before that. So we did a really good job finding books and balancing this much more heavily in recent years. Okay, so yeah, I will share these lists for you all to explore so that you can come to your own conclusions about them and dig in beyond what we're showing you here. But there are a couple things that we want to show you before we close out of this session for the day. So I'm going to go back to my slideshow. And here's just very quickly a flow chart, a visual representation of what this work really looks like. So you again begin by identifying a collection that you want to analyze. And then you think about what purpose that collection serves, how it meets the needs of your community. And then you begin this cyclical process of importing the titles, reflecting, thinking about what you see there, and then asking yourself, do the results on the page in front of you, are they meeting the needs that you're hoping to meet? If the answer is yes, then you can move the process forward. And we're not going to show it to you today, but there are a ton of other resources where you can get really great, solid documentation to share with supervisors or colleagues and show them the impact of why these book choices are valuable. And if the answer is no, then you can kind of re-enter the cycle by adding and weeding titles and importing them again until you reach the point where you feel like your collection does represent the needs of your community. And we've hinted at it, and we'll show you now. Teaching Books also has many ways to generate QR code printables for resources and lists. Susanna, would you kindly, I'm going to go back to the site for us. Would you kindly show us how that is done with a title or a resource of your choosing?
Absolutely. So we're actually going to start by searching for another list that I want to make sure we show. So we're just going to search summer reading because that's what we're talking about today. And you'll see all sorts of things here. But one of them is featured summer reading programs on the side there. If we click on that, you'll see that one of the things we have at Teaching Books is ready-made lists related to this year's CSLP and iRead themes. So if you are using CSLP or iRead, we have lists that you can use as a starting point. So let's open up that Adventure Begins at Your Library one. And there are a variety here. We've got early literacy, English and Spanish, children, English and Spanish, teens, and accessible. So you can go into any of these lists. Let's take a look at the early literacy English one. And there are 78 books here with 700 and some resources available with them. And these lists can be also shared out. So let's take a look at how we might share a whole list. So this is a list that you want to share. If you're doing CSLP, you want to be able to share this whole list out. You'll see that share arrow up in the upper left-hand corner there. Always going to look for that arrow. It's going to be the same on pages, individual resources, all of that. And we could turn this into bookmarks. We can hand out, bookmarks with a link to this list at story time, get families excited about signing up for summer reading if we're using CSLP. We could send a big old pile of these to preschools and daycares that we're working with to encourage them to take a look at some of these titles in the summer. There's a whole lot of ways to share out a whole list like this. But we can also do the same thing with an individual resource. So let's go back into that list and take a look at, I think we had Berry Song up at the top there.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite summer books. It's all about hunting for berries, and it has a really lovely book trailer. So we're going to go take a look at that. And you'll see that same share arrow on the side there. We can open up, we'll get that same menu. And on this one, this is a resource that speaks. So we get a shelf talker option. Let's take a look at what that looks like. And that's going to have a QR code. It's going to have your library's branding if you are set up with us. So you'll be able to just print this out and have it ready to go. This can go in a display, on a bookshelf, be included in all sorts of different places physically in your library where people might be interested in watching a really cute book trailer about Berry Song.
Thanks, Susanna. Yeah, that's exactly how you can use these. And you can do these for any kind of resource, any kind of list, any kind of book. We are all about sharing. And so we've got for you a couple of examples of how people have used these QR codes. You can put them on book jackets as ready to go book talks. You can put them next to books on tables or desks in the library or on displays. And then here's one of my favorites. And Aaron and Alicia, I know you both like this one too. The library was closing, and the librarian there knew that there were kids interested in one of the books. And so even though the library was closed, they put the teaching books QR code there for the kid's parent to scan. And then that way they could get a little taste of the book before the library reopened in the morning. So I just love this one.
It's very creative. I think that would work really well in those book vending machines where you have a material, but it's in the vending machine, so you can't like leaf through it. QR code to a book trailer to the page about the book would be a way to get people excited.
Some great passive readers advisory options out there. Or like we were talking about earlier, the book the perfect book for this particular kid is not on the shelf, but you really want to convince them to put it on hold. Getting them to watch a book trailer, listen to the author recording is always a great option there too.
Yeah. Well, that closes the door on the sharing. And now we will tell you just a little bit more about future events, and we'll do this quickly because we know we're coming up against time here. But like I said at the top, this is the second of our thematic workshop series. We have more coming up. We also have intro webinars for both Missouri and Ohio. So if you're coming to a thematic workshop, if you're watching this after the fact, Missourians and Ohioans are getting the same webinar, but for our entry point webinars, which are really important for us to place them multiple times throughout the year. That's just going to be specific to your state. So we're going to be talking all about the Missouri initiative on March 28th. And in the next week after that is the Ohio initiative intro. And about a month later, we'll close out the semester, quote unquote, with our recap sessions. And you don't need to study for those. It's the same thing as the intro webinar. It's just a little bit more informal. We won't record it, and you'll have a chance to ask any questions. And the same is true of these thematic workshops that we have coming up. We're really excited about these. Hopefully they will answer questions that you have and show you more ways that you can apply these tools to what you're working on in the course of your work that you're already doing. And I'll hand it over to Alicia and Aaron for any closing comments as we talk about office hours. So here are the Missouri office hours dates where Alicia and I are available.
Yes, and office hours are a great time to check in, ask questions, listen in, just especially if you're just getting started, and listening to the questions and comments. Maybe you don't have to stay for the whole time. You can come in, pop in, ask your question, and if that's you have just 5 or 10 minutes, we love to have you and we want to help and answer your questions. Or if you can come and hang out for the whole time and learn from everyone, we appreciate you doing that as well. So
Thanks, Alicia. And then Erin, here's where we are available for our Ohio friends on Tuesdays.
Yeah, we have regular office hours. No question is too big or too small. Jake and I are just hanging in a Zoom room and here to answer your questions or do a little demo or help you work through something sticky. But also, if you can't make it to any of our office hours, you can always email. Me if you're from Ohio, Alicia if you're from Missouri, and we're always here to talk about any pinch points you may be having or get creative about how you want to share this with your colleagues. We've had a couple people recently who are like, I have 5 minutes at a staff meeting. Do you have anything like a one-sheeter or a QR code or something that could just link to the initiative? And we were able to turn that around for them pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. And that person we didn't have that material ready before that person asked. So it's great. We love to hear from you what you need because that's the whole point of and the purpose of what we're doing. We're not trying to be the place where you go passively and grab what you need and leave. But we can make things for you. We can make this easy for you to share and to do. And we hope that you'll share these registration links and information about this project with the librarians and teachers in your life, because we're really excited to be able to do this work and really gratified to be able to share all this with you. So, yeah. And I think that's going to do it for today. So I'll stop the recording here. Thank you all for joining live and for watching with us. Oops. And yeah, please let us know if there's anything that we can do to support you. You can contact us at any time. We're going to stop here to let people who are live with us ask questions if they like. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and take care.